investor. So anyway, I'm here to talk about Electroair. It's probably something you guys are really interested in because most of your aircraft probably are using the dual mag, the single drive dual Bendix mag. So this is an alternative, a good replacement for dual electronics. It's taken a while to get there. The single system was introduced, I think, in 2013, long before I was involved with it. Now they're actually certified to do dual. So that's the reason they asked me to come down here. And Daryl was supposed to be here, but he evidently did the Mooney convention last month right here, I think.
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks.
So I guess he can't do two back to back. It's a little stressful for him. So he asked me to fill in. I know where he's at. He's dove hunting right now.
The truth comes out.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, the time couldn't be better. Back to that other one, the other slide. I'm going to disagree with this. The timing could have been 5 or 6 years ago. That would have been better. But that's what Daryl named this presentation. So go ahead. It's performance through technology. Go ahead. We have certified experimental systems. Over 500 aircraft have now been approved, so it just about gets them all. Uh, the next one will answer that question. Yeah. For many, it's based on similar system that you've probably seen for years and years in the automotive industry. The waste spark. There's a lot of technology there that increases spark plug life and wear. Basically, what's this going to do for your aircraft? It's taking it from there to there. Yeah, yeah. Y'all believe that, right? Daryl Poole put this together. I want y'all to remember that.
I don't think there's a name on this.
Well, and what it amounts to is high energy and timing, and that's what this system brings. That magnetos cannot. It's a higher energy system, and we can adjust the timing. So that's the good thing about this system over a magneto. Go ahead. And we've accomplished both that. This is basically a dual system. Everything here would be one system. Everything here would be the second system, and they're completely independent of each other. They one has no idea what the other one's doing. This is a trigger wheel that goes on the crankshaft. This is the MTH that goes where your magneto was, and basically all they're doing is providing the crankshaft position for the controller, which is here.
Yeah, I'm just using the cursor for the folks online.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay.
Well, I guess maybe we can.
The STC is for 4 cylinders, 6 cylinders, Lycomings, Continentals. Now, this fuel economy, that's kind of a subjective. That's an average that they're saying they're getting. It's definitely subjective. If you, in my opinion, you can gain the fuel economy or you can push the throttle forward. You're going to get either airspeed or fuel economy. One of the two. You're not getting both. That, in my opinion. And I don't know what he's talking about here. I don't know because I have nothing to do with the pricing or the sales. So I'm not sure what he's saying there, but I guess because you're buying two systems, I'm thinking it's cheaper than buying two separate systems and then buying the TCW possibly. Yes, go ahead. That's true. This is the generation 2. So your vacuum advance is now incorporated into the controller, whereas before we had 2 separate boxes. In the earlier one, the Gen 1s, you'll note they were a silver color. If you happen to have one of those systems in your aircraft now, it's a silver box, and then they had a separate manifold pressure sensor. Now it's all incorporated into one. That's good. And by the way, anyone have any questions? Bring it up right now while we're thinking about it, because if we wait till the end of the program, you might forget if you're like me anyway. I can't remember.
Pardon me. One question I have is just I see we're showing these slides from Jim Richards, but I know we're not up to Jim yet. Is it
Oh,
possible?
boy.
All right, hold on. How is that possible?
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, I'm glad you did. Thank you. You're on?
I'm seeing that.
All right.
Yeah, maybe.
Give me just a minute to save stuff and I'll just close out the other ones.
Yeah, I've been doing the right feed all the way through.
Yeah. A different Zoom call? How would that be possible? I don't have, oh. What are you seeing now?
It's on the screen.
You're seeing that?
You got anybody else on Zoom to ask which one they're seeing?
Yeah, what it,
Scott? Or no, Scott? Rick?
Yes,
We do this for a second. Wait, no, it's live. It's
Okay.
I've got current refresh, so it's not.
yeah. Who was saying they was saying,
Neil Gilman
seeing,
was saying he was doing-
okay. What are you seeing now, Neil?
We're still seeing the Jim Richards presentation. I think it's probably safe to say that everybody on the phone is seeing the same thing, or everybody on Zoom.
on the phone. So
No, so Michael is here. I see the presentation of Scott.
Oh, you do? Well, no, that's no, Michael. What is this? What does the presentation say? Does it say 2024 Commander Owners Group Fly-In, or does it say something else?
I see the Electroair presentation.
Ah, okay. So maybe it's something with me, and I'll reconnect.
Okay, yeah, try that.
Sorry for that. I think you must switch over to the presentation of Scott. There are two presentations, and you have to switch between.
So it's up to him to choose the right view. Is that right?
Yes, it's to him to change to the other presentation.
thank you for letting us know, Mike.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
Good.
Yeah, let's go ahead and continue with Rick's presentation.
This system is good for a single and or dual. Basically, they're the same. All the components are the same. If you go with the dual system, you'll have to have a backup battery or backup alternator, and there's certain restrictions to backup battery as to how it can be used. But so what's relatively new is the dual system. That's only been out for a couple of years now. Yes, sir. Say that again. You mean a magneto, or no? That's not been approved. There's no magneto that I'm aware of that's approved that would go in that same hole. It's a different.
So you're talking about a single magneto
You're
setup
saying
rather than the dual.
Use the dual, but only use half of it. Well, there is no single mag that'll fit in that hole that's approved.
If you leave the single drive.
Oh, if you have two drives, separate drives, yes, you can remove one mag and have your backup is. But if you have the single drive dual mag, as far as I know, there's no way that would be great if someone would develop a single mag that would go in there. And it was approved, then I see no reason why you couldn't do that.
Ripping out half the wire.
But we don't. It's not available. There's no one making that magneto that I know of. Now, in the experimental world, I understand that there's people that have done exactly that. But in the certified world, no. There's no way of doing it that I'm aware of anyway. Okay.
Neil's good now. He went off and came back.
Okay, good.
This is real interesting. This came up about 6 months ago. There's an operator that's operating like 3172s or something. And he's been tracking his wear, and this is valve guide wear at these hours, and this is what he's seeing. Normal wear here, wear with the power flow exhaust, if you are familiar with that, he's seeing this kind of wear. And if you think about it, it makes sense. You're drawing that exhaust through, so it's heating up the gas in the valve. And then with the Electroair, that should be ignition. This is what it dropped to, so it's significant. And what's the reason that takes place is the time the exhaust valve opens, the ignition process, it's over. The combustion event is done. So all that's going past that exhaust valve and out that exhaust, if everything's tuned and working the way it should, will be exhaust. No flames, no burning fuel, none of that. So with this system, you'll see a decrease in EGT and a fairly significant decrease. I'd say 50 degrees. But the opposite of that is what your CHT is going to do. If you're containing that combustion and the events happening with the valves closed, all that energy's in there, your CHTs are going to go up. So if you have, I have people occasionally, and I get phone calls because I'm in tech support, so I'll get a phone call, and I like the calls where the guy's buying the system and he calls me and we talk all this through. Unfortunately, most of my phone calls I get after the fact, and now they're dealing with problems they're trying to solve. One of them is, the first thing I'll ask them is, what's your CHTs right now operating 2 max? Because if you're already at 390, 400 degrees, you're going to be unhappy. And I'd rather deal with that on the front side, than be dealing with it after you've already got all this money invested and you've got a CHT issue, and now I'm getting a phone call.
Are they talking about before they leaned and stuff like that, or after they lined out and leaned out?
Like at takeoff, climb out, they're it's not uncommon. A TR-182, which is the world's worst because it's a carbureted turbocharged, has terrible airflow issues through their induction system. It's not uncommon to see 430 degrees on climb out and takeoff. And so if they're already at 400, 405, then I want them to go in this with their eyes open and understand where they're at. And the first thing I would suggest these people do is, let's see if we can't get those temperatures down before you spend a dime. Let's look at your airflow across your cylinders, baffling, on injected models. If they have those issues, like say PA46, something like that, that's 350 horsepower. Let's look at injectors. Let's try to get the CHTs down before we even invest this money. And if we can drop you down to 375, now we both feel comfortable with you going ahead with this project and putting a dual system on or whatever you're doing. And now I'm not going to be getting that phone call. So I'd rather deal with it on the front side rather than the back side. Now, most of you guys are flying D-rated 540s, correct? Probably not going to be an issue. That conversation is probably for guys that are flying either turbocharged or higher horsepower, high-end, higher horsepower engines. But anyway, I thought this was really, really significant, and I've been told this for years since I've been involved in this, how it really helps valve wear. But that's the first time I'd seen it documented. And the next slide just basically is a graph of this showing the same thing. But I think that is a significant difference. Now I ask, what about power flow with, if you go back to the other one, what will this be if you're also running this and this? They didn't have the data. But I mean, you can kind of, we're looking at about 60% reduction in wear. So if you use the same formula, you could, you're going to be back somewhere in normal wear range if you do the power flow and that. Anyway, I thought that was very interesting. Go ahead. You all know about this. That's what that's what you are here for mostly. The 360s, the 112s, are they dual mag as well? They're separate. Because that's a different engine, I guess, than like the 172, I believe. Yeah, the 360s and the 180. Was it the ones? No, that's a 320 and the 172 that has a dual mag, I think. Yeah, I think it is. Anyway, okay, go ahead. So the guys with 360s, you can leave your one mag in and then just replace it with a single, and you're going to get about the same amount of increase in performance uh, with a single system as you do with a dual. I mean, it's literally on a dual system or on a single system. When you turn the mag off, you won't even know it. If everything's set up the way it is, you'll get zero drop. The way it should be. If you're getting a slight drop, it's either going to be a timing issue or something in a wire. Something's just not perfect. I think the manual calls for a maximum 40 RPM drop. Now that's with the advanced curve. If you do away with the advanced curve for whatever reason, now you're going to see similar drops that you would with a mag. So just to let you know. So this is it's a dual mag replacement, and this is again that's the same. That's all the components that you're looking at. Two separate systems right there and there. The wires, however, for both. But, and the one is a trigger wheel. This goes on the crankshaft. The other is going to be the MTH, which is mag replacement unit. You have two independent coils, and basically none of the two systems are totally separated. Yeah, and it's basically to replace what he's calling the most dangerous. And I heard a story in here today about a mag that fell on a flight that one of you guys was talking about. So, I mean, it's not uncommon. The dual mag is not. I really don't. I'm not sure how it was ever approved in the first place. I think the FAA must have really been asleep that day when Appendix rolled in with that idea. But anyway, and here's your. I guess these are the prices now that for the two different systems, 4 and 6, and it is approved.
That doesn't include installation, right?
No,
It's just
that's
the kit
the
itself.
parts. That's the parts. Okay. I believe that price does include the backup battery. Again, if you guys want some real hard numbers, call Daryl at Smooth Power because I'm not in that end of it. So I don't. Go ahead.
If anybody wants to see it later, I've got.
Oh, do you? Cool.
Times,
Oh, okay.
but I don't know the price of the battery.
It does, and that may be true. I don't deal on the price side of this company at all. So go ahead. That this is very important in my opinion. Before you install, I really like to see people, and occasionally I get these phone calls, guys just looking at buying it. So he calls me to get all the good information and bad information, and I can be out there in front. So I'll leave a card. I've got cards here. I'll leave them here, and you guys, if you're deciding to do this and you want to talk about your particular installation, feel free to call. That's what Electroair pays me for, to help you guys. So. But a plan is very important. You need to look at it, determine where you're going to install all this equipment because there's quite a bit of stuff that goes on. You're going to have two coils on the dual systems. So you got to find a place that you can put those coils and just have a plan going forward and get with your technician, whoever's going to install it for you. Get with them and y'all sit down and go over the manuals and figure out where you're going to want things. Your controller is going to be on the cold side of the firewall. The coil's going to be on the hot side of the firewall. So,
Pictures of everything. Can you receive pictures and kind of look at that?
Yes, yeah. You guys can call me up, or for that matter, I guess Daryl. But the guys in the sales, they're not going to be that much help as far as installation. So just if you get my number and call
They
me.
just want to sell you a box. That's it.
Yeah, and they're right.
A
Yeah.
box of stuff.
I've talked people out of buying, like a guy that can buy a single system, and they call me up and they're like, "Yeah, I'm buying a dual system for my 182, whatever." Like, well, why are you doing that? You know, I mean, and some people, that's okay. That's okay. Well, they just like, I hate mags, or for whatever reason, I want to get completely away. Well, okay, you're going to buy two electronics, backup battery, or split bus alternators, right? Dual alternators. And we're talking an expensive proposition to get all that mounted and put in. Well, if you don't have to do it, this is just my personal opinion. I will take a single mag and use it for my backup redundant. Because here's the thing: when you turn that mag off and you see no RPM reduction, you're getting all you're going to get. You might get 5% more by throwing another electronic ignition on. And I'll tell you something else that probably won't be brought up is when you put two systems on, occasionally I'll get a phone call and the guy goes, "Yeah, I'll turn one system off, my RPM goes up." And I'll turn it back on, it comes down. I'll turn the other one on, RPM goes up. What's going on? But man, the first time they told me that, I sat down, scratched my head. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Well, what it is you're getting such a complete combustion event, and it's happening at a time that actually reaches peak pressure too soon. So if your timing's, let's say, 22 degrees before, and you start that event right there, with two systems, it's happening at a rate that gets you out of that sweet spot on the backside, which is what, 14 to 16 degrees, I think. After TDC is where you want the pressure, the peak pressure. And so if you reach that too soon, what's going to happen? Your piston is now here instead of here. So you're not getting the good downforce on the crankshaft. It's actually trying it gets your pressures inside your combustion chamber high to the point where I've seen it make noise, and you don't want that. So what we have to do is then retard the timing ever so slightly to get the peak pressure in that area where it needs to be. And that's there's unintended consequences on everything that we do. That's one thing that nobody really anticipated with this system when we went to dual. And it's not in every system, it's not in every engine, but occasionally we'll have one. The TR-182 is one of the ones we've had that issue with, where we're reaching peak pressure too soon. So we had to make some adjustments, and it's taken some time to figure all that out and make the changes that were necessary. But anyway, make a plan before you get started. Don't let someone just buy all the stuff and then go out there. You're going to spend 2 days scratching your head trying to figure out where you're going to put all that stuff. Also, there's in the installation guide, before you have the equipment, there's diagrams that give you the size of the components. So if you're wondering, like the switch panel and all that, it gives you all those numbers, so you'll be able to tell where they'll fit. This, for those that aren't familiar with the system at all, basically this is how it's working. It's either going to use an MTH, that's 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder. This is a trigger wheel. So it's given the information. The two on the left replace the magneto, and they mount in the same spot. And basically all these are for is crankshaft position. It gives the information to the controller. Okay. That's a typical installation, and 4-cylinder installation. That's on an 0360. You'll see the other magneto opposite of it. So this would be a typical single installation MTH. This is a trigger wheel installation. There's the wheel mounted on the crankshaft, and this is with the bracket and the pickup. The pickup's right there. The big issue with these is the clearance between that wire coming off the pickup and that, as you can see, that's pretty tight right in here underneath the starter ring gear. So if you don't take that wire and fold it back and secure it to the bracket, it has a tendency of getting out there and I've had where they wore the wiring too, and the pickup fails, and then the ignition system fails. So, and a lot of times um, there'll be sand casting marks on those. So if you just look in there and go, well, yeah, it's clear. I think I've got a 16th of an inch or whatever. Turn the prop completely through. Make sure that there's not a portion of this interior of that has a raised area. Because if you don't do 360, I'll be getting a phone call. Okay. It's typical. It's Continental engine, obviously, and that's a single replacement. Mag on one side, MTH on the other. That's 6 cylinder. It's 550 actually, and that's the same thing on a Cirrus. Uh, same deal. Single system. This is the controller, and as you can see, like you were talking about the early. Do you have an early system, Gen 1? Gen 2. The Gen 1 did not have this or this indicator light. They were two separate. There was another box, so you had two boxes to mount up under the dash, and now they've incorporated where the manifold pressure sensor is now incorporated in this box. This light will indicate when you turn your switch on your EIS on, that light will go green. It will go red if, well, there's several reasons why it would go red, but when it goes red, it's not good. So it's either like if you're cranking and it goes red, it can be low RPM. It can be just erratic RPM. It could be a bad ground in the coil. So the coil is not firing and it senses it. And it's like, okay, I'm shutting down. It turns red. So basically, we use that just for troubleshooting. It's really you're not going to be able to see that unless you're actually working on the airplane. You got somebody up on the dash while you're cranking or starting or running, or you can take an iPhone. I've done that several times. Lay it in the floorboard. You might not be able to see the light exact, but you can see the green glow and you can see it go red if it's going red. So basically, it's for troubleshooting. Also, you can remove these 4 screws, and there's a light in there on the circuit board that shows the signal coming back from the MTH or the trigger wheel. So you can literally watch the flashing light, which is that signal coming back. I'll tell you an interesting story. We had one that we were like, it was going red. So we pulled that cover to see if we were getting the signal, see if that was the reason that it was going red. And so we pulled the cover, and the light's flashing, and it looks pretty good. But yet both boxes mounted pretty much side by side, and we were watching them, and one looked a little bit different than the other, which is weird. It's like they should be together. I thought, well, maybe it's a timing issue. Maybe one's timed slightly different than the other. But as it turns out, his starter bendix started going back. He'd been cranking on this thing for 2 days or whatever. And his starter bendix didn't engage. The starter was turning. He had the number 2 system completely turned off. And we're trying to start the airplane on this system. And you could hear the starter engage and the bendix making the noise, but the engine was not turning over. And we were getting an indication that the engine was turning. And I'm like, so anyway, engineers are still working on that one. But it has to be some kind of interference from the starter itself. You get off the starter, light goes out. Get on the starter, light would come back on. So there was some kind of electronic interference on that particular system where something was mounted too close to the starter, or maybe the starter cable. Yes, sir.
If you have a Gen 1,
Uh-huh. There is, but
The question, just for those online, was if you have a Gen 1 that has not been installed for whatever reason, is there a path to trade up?
for a single, system, you couldn't get it approved.
There's no choice. Because there was new guy that was started in there and so we're not gonna do it.
What's certified now? Why would you need a filter? Oh, you can put it. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Did they fix that problem?
That has since been.
Good, good. Okay. Wow. See,
So it's finally there now. The question is now, if I want to put this in now, I'm not sure what to do. It's like expensive. But if I did so, I want to change the unit I have. So this is
yeah, I would call Mike or Brian at the factory because, well, you can call Daryl and see what he says, but I would think, I personally would call Brian and ask him or email. I'll get with me. No, I wouldn't be afraid to put a Gen 1 system on it. I mean, the only problem with the Gen 1 system is if the controller for some reason goes bad, for whatever reason, or the map sensor goes bad, there's no replacement now for that. You would then have to upgrade to the Gen 2. But I mean, we've got Gen 1 systems out there that's been there for 10 years that are still operating. And so, I mean, I wouldn't, if they were going to do it for free, I would do it. But again, that's not my department, so I don't know what to tell you on that. But just call, or I'll give you an email. You can email Mike directly and just ask him. Yeah, okay, and just ask Mike if what he'll do for you. But if not, I certainly I would just run it until I needed to upgrade, basically. Okay. Uh, how it works, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's basically the controller and the map sensor work together and calculate the correct time for firing, depending on mostly it's the manifold pressure. Anything below 24 inches, and that's a number that the FAA made them use, it will not advance the timing. Above 24 inches, it's going to be at whatever your timing is. If your engine's timed at 25, and this controller, there's on the other side of the controller, there's a decal that basically says what that controller's timed to. So that's another thing. When you get it in, make sure it matches your data plate, because if it doesn't, that's what your airplane's going to now be timed to. So, but anyway, anything above 24 inches is going to be at that timing, whatever your engine's timed at. Anything below that, all the way down to idle. That's why you put this system on. I had a 182 with a 580 engine in it, and I could get it to idle at 400 or 500 easy enough. I mean, and it's just smooth as glass, but they'll idle really nice. And so it's just smoother throughout the range whenever you can adjust the timing. Okay, go ahead. And these components are on the cold side of the firewall. These are the coils. This is experimental. I'm not even sure they sell that anymore. Now, when you upgrade from experimental, you're going to get one of these coils. It's basically they've quit producing the experimental systems. If you're in that market, you're going to get basically a certified system. 6-cylinder, obviously, and 4-cylinder. You'll notice those are towers. So basically, 1 and 2, tower A, 1 and 2 are going to fire at the same time. So when number 1's on compression firing, number 2's on exhaust, and it's firing. So that's that waste spark we talked about. And that's what cleans plugs. That seems to make plugs last longer. Yeah, fire twice as often, but they last longer. I don't understand it, but that's the truth. Automotive plugs. When's the last time you changed a plug in a car? Yeah, my wife had a 2010 Mustang. She put 180,000 miles on it. Never changed the plug, and it ran just as good the day we sold it as it did the day we bought it. I mean, it's amazing what the things do. The only difference in this and an automotive type system is going to be NOx sensors, and they have so much more input information that we don't have. But if you think about it, We really don't need it. A knock sensor may be okay, and someday they may develop that. But in reality, in your airplane, you go to a certain throttle setting, you might adjust it once, and then you're flying for however many hours, right? And so you're not pulling a grade here and down the other side or slowing down and making it, none of that. So the automotive industry has a little more input, and so they vary the timing a whole lot more than what is even necessary in an airplane. But these are and basically the way spark. So this would be 1 and 2. This would be, well, it depends on Continental or Lycoming. Let's say 3 and 4, 5 and 6. So 5 and 6, 3 and 4. Good thing about this is if you have an issue and you call me up, you say, number one's not firing. I may tell you, go out there and take your leads from here and here and swap them. And let's go see what that does. If the problem stays with this, it's the coil. If it moves, then it's going to be your spark plug or your wires. And people are always, well, I changed it and it's working now on both sides. Can I leave it that way? I'm like, no, move it back. Move it back. And they're like, well, I moved it back and it's working fine. What's going on? Well, these kind of, when you engage the ends onto here, yeah, anyone that's worked in the automotive industry understands this. You push it on and you think, oh, that's there. And then you put a little more pressure and it pops again, right? And you seat it. If you don't have it seated well, it's going to be sparking in there, which takes energy away from the spark plug. So that's what's going on. When somebody tells me I swapped it and it's working fine on both sides now, so switch them back, make sure you engage them properly, and it'll probably fix the problem. Anyway, that's a good tool for me for troubleshooting. Go ahead. That's a typical mount that's on an SR22. This is the mount that you will get, the black area. That's the mount that comes with the coil. These guys, a lot of airplanes, it's a challenge to find where to mount these coils. This one they've attached an additional bracket somebody fabricated, and so these pictures are just going to show you different ways. And obviously the coil's not there. This is 2, 6 is here, and 4 is there. So depending on which engine it is, the only difference is Continentals because of the firing order, it's a little different. But anyway, when the coil's mounted then to this plate, and then this plate is mounted to the plate that they made. The coil's not there. You can see that's where the plug is for the coil. When it gets mounted, it's go plug in. They just showing you the different mounts that people have made. Go ahead. There's one mount on a Debonair. Question with that one was, I'm not sure that it's mounted to the inspection plate. That can be removed. You're all familiar with Debonairs. This plate's can be removed so you can get into the back side of your instruments, and it's really pretty cool. And I've seen a lot of them mounted there. I'm not sure. I mean, I was always told you don't mount equipment on an inspection plate, but that is a structural plate, as you can see, so it's probably okay. But I can see an FAA guy walking up and seeing that and going, "Oh no, you can't do that." The antennas mounted on the inspection plate, or even a strobe, some type of electronic device, they kind of frown on that for whatever reason. Spark plugs. Basically, this is the plugs are built for, and the PMA is through Electroair. This is a fine wire plug, obviously, and that's a massive plug. And then they make the more common massive plug that you guys are used to seeing, but or most, y'all may be used to that by now. But when I first seen that, I thought this looks like an automotive plug or something. Anyway, these are easily adjusted, and our gap is 35 thousandths, I believe, whereas your standard is about 17. So commonly, if you take your airplane in for an annual, you get it back out and you call me and say it's just not running as good as it was before. First thing I'm going to ask you to do is go check the gap on the plug. Somebody's probably taking them down to, because even though the shop itself probably is aware of all this, who normally cleans and gaps plugs, yeah. So occasionally that's an issue. I don't believe the plugs come with the kit. I think you have to buy them separately and that's because you technically can regap your own plugs. If it's fine wire, you can regap them. I have seen people break the electrode off by regapping them, but what the heck?
Kit came with plus.
Huh?
My kit came with plus.
Yeah, but I bet you they charged you for them. Yeah.
They weren't free.
Yeah.
So if you order them from
Yes, these the Electroair plugs that are PMA by Electroair and Tempest builds them, they're already pre-gapped. Now, that being said, check them. Because I've installed some and I've checked them and I had to regap. So they're not perfect. Tempest makes mistakes as well. So
Or they were dropped.
well, yeah. Ooh, that's scary.
Yeah.
The wires now are made by Magnacore, and they're red. These are I don't know why they added pictures of. That's the old style wires there. But you also need to make sure that your ends match your plug. So the hardware kit that you get for this has to match up with whatever plugs you're ordering, whether it be the size of the barrel, basically. 3/4 or 7/8 wrench fits the two different ones. They're 5/8, I believe, and 3/4, something like that. What else? The spiral coil. These are high resistance wires. Matter of fact, Magnacore makes plug wires for NASCAR, NASA on some of their some systems that requires that. I don't even know what they are, but I went through the Magnacore factory and talked with them. And they were telling me all these things. They use them for some type of heating device, maybe on the shuttle. I don't know, but anyway, they ended up using their coil wires because everything else had interference issues. And not these, but the red wires. These are like 3,700 ohms per foot. The red ones are 5,700 ohms per foot. So they're a high resistance wire, and it's a coil of wire around. You have a non-conductor with coils of wire going around that non-conductor. It's not a solid center core. So when you put the spring in, when you're making these up and you're putting the spring in, you have to do that in the field. If this was the core, the coil of wire here, and your bayonet on your spring, you got to put in down the side of that. Now, I've seen them where people get them in the right spot and then they go off like this, and they'll end up arcing right here and burning out and eventually opening up. Now, when you do your resistance check with your ohmmeter, you ohm them out. They have to be, it's 475 ohms per inch. So you measure the length, you ohm them out, you record that so that you know for number one, this is the number. For number two, this is the number. So that in the future, you can recheck that and go, hey, this has changed, whatever. There's something wrong with this wire. It's just a troubleshooting deal. But what'll happen is if it makes contact like that, it burns it out. Now you've got it open. It's not going to fire the plug. So also the other thing I've seen is that it goes so drastic that the tip of this is now protruding out or right at the outer core of this wire, the out part of that silicone. And you'll see it tracking up the porcelain and up to the barrel of the plug, the barrel nut. And you'll see a black mark on there. So anyway, there's a video out there. Does he talk about it here?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a video out there. You can go online and watch Daryl if you can stand to look at him that long. Watch Daryl put these plug wires in, and he does a good job. He real good job of demonstrating how to do it. So, but if you have any questions, you can always call him or me or somebody. Tempest PMA. Is there what?
Replacement schedule
Uh,
for
five-
the leads?
500 hours, I believe. It's in if you look in the ICAs, it'll tell you, but it may be. It may be. Yeah, I'd have to look it up. I try not to memorize facts like that because then I won't be looking, and sure enough, they'll change it and I'll be wrong. So, but yeah, I think if you go into there's a section that gives you your annual inspection and all that. I think we'll touch on that here in a minute. Go ahead. Oh, the separation while we were there. This next one shows you separation between is very important. If you look at any automotive set of wires on an automotive, what do? They have those standoffs where everything, and they keep those wires separated because it's high tension, high voltage wires. You don't want them together because they'll start cross talking. They may not do it. Like people get away. I got guys all the time that come in and you go, well, I didn't separate my wires. I bundled them all together. It's working fine. I'm like, oh, okay. I'll talk to you in about 2 years. You know, and I may or may not. But as the silicone starts breaking down, as it gets some age on it, you could end up with wires cross talking if you bundle them together. So that's what they're trying to avoid with that. And I'll have guys that do a really beautiful job of this, and then where it goes through, say this baffling, then they bundle it in a clamp, and so kind of like, oh, all that looks good, but what are you doing here? You know, so you got to watch for that. And you don't want to run them through metal. This would probably be okay, but you've seen the ones that don't have the plastic on them. I wouldn't do that because that's just asking for an issue down the road. Okay. This is talking about regapping your own plugs and the problems that may ensue. The biggest problem I have on massive plugs like this, if you try to regap them, if you think about it, you've got those ground electrodes are running parallel to the wall of the center electrode. If you try to regap them, what's going to happen? That right there. You may get out here, you may get your 35, but you're probably still at 17 down here. All you've done in that case is move the gap to where it's firing down here instead of up here where it can spread and propagate the flames better. So I'm not a big fan of regapping those. I know people that have, and there's a guy out there that was telling me, and I asked him to send me the tool. He said he made a tool where he can regap them just fine. I said, great, send me a picture of that tool. I'd like to see it.
Is there a preference for the fine wire or the nice?
Every engine, I guess every engine is different, and some people say, I think Daryl even puts on here somewhere about let the engine talk to you or tell you which plug to use. You may have a preference, and you may. I have people tell me all the time, well, my engine runs much better on massive than it does on fine wire, or vice versa. Okay, if you prefer, it doesn't matter. The fine wire they claim will last 3 times as long as a massive. I don't know that they've got any documentation on that with our system. I have no idea. But I know that's, if you talk to Daryl, he'll tell you you're going to get more life out of the fine wire plug. Yeah, it may be true. I can't speak to that. But a lot of people just like the fine wire because of the doesn't seem to foul as much on lower plugs, and people like to put them in the bottom. To me, at the additional cost of fine wire over massive, on my airplane, I'm probably going to go with massive unless I have some really good indication that a fine wire works better or lasts longer. It'd have to last 3 times as long because that's about how much more that expensive they are. But that's a personal call, and if you have experience and you think that a fine wire is better, it's definitely available out there on most applications. Now there may be a few that massive is the only thing that's available. Okay, go ahead. This is the switch panel, and it comes that's no, leave it. That's fine. Replaces the key switch, so it's a push to start with. This is a single system, obviously, because it's mag, and these switches are inverted for the mag is closed, up would open, wait, up, yeah, it's on, so it would open, and down is closed, whereas this one's the reverse of that. So basically, if you bought this system for dual EIS, it'd say EIS 1 and 2. The switches would both be in the same position. In other words, not inverted, because they're closed is up, providing power, down is open, cutting the power off. Whereas on a mag, it's the reverse of that. So this replaces the key switch, and the reason if you talk to the guys that are selling these, they're going to try to push this on you, and I agree because of the switch. The key switch are just notoriously bad anyway. They've got 80s on them, and you know how you have to turn them off and make sure your mag doesn't. Well, I've got an experimental right now over in Kerrville that he can't turn his mag off, and it's probably a switch. I've got to go look at it, but anyway, these switches are, would say, soft to the touch. They're easy to open and close. If you prefer, I mean, you can use these because it's already in a package, or you can do your own switches. Just use switches that are PMA or approved switches. You don't necessarily have to buy our switches, but probably for the price and what you're going to get, it's probably just as easy to go with this. Hello. To turn the switches off?
Yeah. Shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Turn them off.
Yeah, and tell us the reason. Right. Oh, I see what you're saying. And the problem. No, it won't. It can't. It requires 30. It requires 60 RPM before the system will come on. Oh, with the two mags. Oh, yes. You're right. I'm sorry. I was thinking EIS, but yeah, with you got to remember, I don't even magnetos don't even compute with me anymore. But yeah, you're right. Then your mag would be hot. Absolutely, it would be hot. You're right. So they do sell the switch with left and right mag. So you can buy the switch for left and right mag, which is what he's talking about. So in that case, yes, if you leave those on, but if you'll remember back in the day, well, I'm probably older than most of y'all in here, I guess, but maybe. But my old Aranca, it had switches. And even Cessna 414, Cessna 420, they all had switches. There was no key except for the cabin door problem. Yeah. So yeah. But as far as the EIS, if you leave that switch on, the only problem that'll cause is the next time you go to start it, because when you turn the master switch off, EIS loses power. If it's wired correctly, I'll put it that way. So if you left those switches on, I've had guys do this, and then they turn their master switch on. Well, the EIS comes on at the exact same time as the coil. Well, now there's a race going on. And if the controller looks at that coil before it's powered up, like it sees it for that microsecond before, controller will shut back down. So I've had guys that and it took a week probably to figure out what his problem was. And what it was is there was a man and his son both flew this airplane. It was a Mooney rocket, I think. And the kid told me one day, he goes, yeah, I get mad at dad because you won't turn the EIS switch off. And I clicked all of a sudden. I said, oh, okay. Because they were complaining about occasionally, not always, occasionally it wouldn't start on the EIS. And that's what it was.
You had to start all over again.
Yeah. All you'd have to do is cycle the switch. If you'd cycle the switch, then it'll power back up.
Power cycling.
Yeah. But anyway, as far as leaving this in the on position for shutdown, it won't affect anything other than the next startup it may. And so I thought that's what you were getting at a while ago. But yeah, no, you have two mags. Okay. Yeah, basically, he's just saying here that this it gives our system will operate better with two switches and a push button for that. Now, just while we're on this push button, if you leave a shower sparks mag in the hole, we're going to have a problem because we can't do what that well, we can now, but in the beginning, we couldn't do what the key did, which was to kill that left mag, which that's easy enough. You just leave the one off, right? But then it changes the from the running points to the starting points. So they've developed now a relay, and I had one customer that just did it with another switch, left and right, or LR or L. LR, L. Let's see. Yeah, left retard or L. Yeah. So he had it to where he could manually do it versus now the engineers there have come up with a way to do it with a relay. So, but in the beginning, if you had an impulse mag, this is not a problem. But if you had a shower sparks, yeah, it wouldn't work. So, but I think they've overcome that now. Another one of those unintended things that they didn't see coming. Replace key switch, but eliminates that AD and just operates better for us. So that's the reason for doing that. That AD is, you probably all know. I mean, it's really not that big a deal. You just go out there and turn the thing off, and if it keeps running, you go, oh, I need to call my mechanic. Didn't pass the AD, and it's supposed to be checked. I think when you do your run up, is it not? I know.
Shut them.
There you go. Yeah. I don't know if it's required to check that daily, like or at each flight. I know it's required at an annual. So, but I don't know. Do what? Well, you don't have to do yours at all anymore. No key. This is backup batteries panel. How are we doing on time? We're okay.
You're like 2 minutes over.
Oh, we're over?
Yeah.
You guys do we need to shut it down?
Pretty soon.
Okay. This is the backup battery panel. It's pretty self-explanatory. You're going to have a light, number one, number two. This light will illuminate if it's in the ready position. That light will illuminate if the backup battery is in use. So basically, if your voltage drops below a certain percentage, that light will come on, and that tells the pilot, "Hey, I'm operating off my backup battery. I now only have 3 hours to get home," or whatever it is, and that'll have to be calculated by the amp hour rating that you have on the backup battery, whether it's 6 amp or 3 amp. So basically, it also displays the voltage in the backup battery, so you know the status of it. Okay, go ahead. Troubleshooting, which is all you need to know there is my phone number. You should call me. No, actually if you go into the ICAs, all the troubleshooting, probably anything you can probably work through it, or your mechanic can himself. But if he has any issues, just be sure and give me a call, and I'll be happy to work with you guys or your mechanics or whoever and get through that. CHTs, and this we've already covered most all of this. That we've already talked about. Induction leaks, guys, check for induction leaks. Here's the thing with a magneto. Well, with a magneto, you can have induction leaks and you'll never know it. With this, you put our system on, they're gonna jump out at you like, what the heck is going on? So, stopped up injectors, partially stopped up injectors, you can get by with the magnetos. You cannot get by with our system. So that's something you need to know. And I equate it to, if I have lung issues, I can walk around my property all day long, but if I try to run up that mountain, I would probably be hurting. And that's kind of the same situation. You're asking more out of that engine. So if it has some minor defects, he's back there coughing, you know, you run up the mountain. Anyway, that's pretty much all of that. Troubleshooting, just call me. And we've already covered all of this. All this information is in the ICAs. As far as what needs to be done at the annual, it's real simple. You pull the cover, look for internal oil leaks in the MTH. What else? Well, it's all in there. You inspect the leads, obviously. You look for carbon tracking. The plugs are same as any plug. You're just going to clean them and put them back in, and just look at the sensor. The remaining components, there's really nothing else you can do. 100 hours is going to be the only additional would be removing that cover and looking for oil leaks and on the outside and internally on the MTH. That's pretty much it. What's next? Yeah, go over the flight manual supplement. You may end up having to change your starting procedure with our system. What used to work may not work. It may take you a while to figure out the best way to start your airplane once the system's on, especially on the dual systems. The reason the singles don't seem to have that problem is because the magneto seems to, if everything's working good, the magneto is probably going to fire it off before our system because mags are just, they don't take much. I mean, that impulse fire, something's happening. And basically just read your manual and follow all the procedures. Get with your technicians and go over a lot of that information. And if you have any questions, he can call me or you can call me. What's next? Hey, that's it.
Rick, thanks very much.
Oh, you bet. If y'all have any questions, I'll sit out there for a little while and answer any questions or whatever.
Sounds good. Yeah, we got a little break here. Come back at 2:15. Jim Richards will be on to talk to us. But yeah, catch Rick during the break here before he takes off. You're taking off at 3. Is it?
Well, I can. I mean, I have the.
You have some cards you can leave.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me show you that picture again.
Oh, what is this thing?
This is the conferencing bar. This is the camera and speakers and mic are in here.
Oh, getting more shirts.
Yes, I don't know what sizes are left, but. All right, so I gotta turn this.
32 gallons, 32 gallons an hour?
Yeah, I'm talking speed differences. Yeah. They'll be without ragged.
All the way forward. Typically, it'll be something with a 365.
Yeah.
Now, mine are 4. Because when I'm up 1,000
I
feet,
think I can take me out and show them.
2,000 feet, maybe I don't think about it because
Yeah.
and bring it from, remember, it's 25 to 75.
I bought the gap seal.
But back to 25. Block my nuts, 32 to 25.
Another thing.
And then I lead it back to about 24, 25. And that's a big temps for somebody between smack 380 and.
Yes.
Yes, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
I pull back, but I've talked to Kurt, I've talked to all these guys, the new engine I made a couple of years ago. We checked play with that. But I maybe figured that would be about.
You do too.
So
I know a little more stand on it works.
5 minutes. They almost.
There are plenty of them out there. With it.
5, go to 4405.
Yeah.
And everybody says,
All right.
Still flowing, 32, 33, 34 gallons.
yeah.
The other thought would be that maybe when you're going full rich, it's not full rich.
We used to get the bird and
Huh?
I know good to hear, but I bet you a couple.
yeah. They've asked me to, and
And you don't like having intake leak on 5%.
no, it's only on the new engines. So
That's
the only thing they said is they said, they're only running that for 5 or 10 minutes. For 5.
Okay.
Because Redline doesn't.
Love
Redline
it.
runs 500.
Yeah.
And my alarm comes
Matter
up.
of fact, Randy did that too recently.
Just to remind me, I'm up there.
Yeah, well, I set mine usually at 400, just kind of as an alert.
Yeah.
So pay attention.
Yes, exactly. Anyway, I just want to, because that's ours have got to be pretty similar. But
Yeah.
it's only been on the new engine. The old engine was, I rarely get to 400 and I'd be running 380.
Yeah.
All right.
Is that, and the only other thing is this is where I'd really like to, I've got to decide if I want to make a new Hafley again, or
You can stop.
modify the existing. Well, the thing is that what I want to do is I want to be able to fully close it. that means there has to be less surface area. Because in cruise, you're not gonna keep it cool enough if you close it all the way.
Well, no, but I do. If I leave it open till I get to cruiser weight about 150. And then I close it. And yes, I see go up 5 degrees or something, but not that bad.
Oh, mine will crest 400 if I'm in cruise, and usually what I'll cruise at will be 29 plus or minus, and 22 to 2300.
Okay, I'm usually 23, 24.
All right, Jim, you ready to,
I
you
try to
ready
stay in
to,
the upper end of the green arc on those, so.
get
I'm running
configured?
75% now.
Yeah, and I'll usually be running 70,
Yeah.
72. And that's gonna be between 15 and 16 gallons an hour. So you're probably running 16,
More like
17. Oh, okay.